Hello, legal eagles, learners, and luminaries. My name is Zubair Abbasi, and today is a very special day in my life because I am interviewing Professor Werner Minsky. And the topic of today's discussion will be Muslim Family Laws Ordinance 1961. This year in 2021, MFLO turns 60. At 60, people retire. So we are not really sure if MFLO has any plans to retire, or if Imran Khan's Sufi-based or spiritualistic government has any plans to retire or maybe upgrade MFLO. But it's a special moment for me personally because Professor Minsky was my examiner for my DPhil thesis at Oxford, and what a great person he is. Most of you have read his books or his articles, or you have heard about Angreji Shariat. So, the person who actually coined that term is with me. So, here, Professor Minsky, over to you. Please, first of all, tell us about yourself, although you don't need any introduction for the people who are experts in your area.
All right. Assalamu alaikum. I am very happy to meet Zubair again today and to engage with him in this discussion. We had a little talk already about all sorts of things happening here in Leicester, where we're sitting at the moment, and about developments in the field of Muslim family law and personal law. And I think we should begin our discussion, no?
Yes, sure.
Yeah?
Sure.
Yeah?
So, Professor Minsky, you have particular view about MFLO, right? So you take a particular critical perspective on MFLO. Do you want to tell us why, what kind of issues or problems you see in MFLO?
All right. Critical view in the sense that this act or ordinance claims to be doing certain things that it actually doesn't do. So I've been writing and saying for a long time that it's sort of not completely honest in a way. And it does this in a very loyally and very subtle way by using the little word shall. Yeah? Because in English, in legalese, English especially, shall means must. Yeah? And so if it says, a marriage shall be registered, then it is presumed that this means must. Yeah? But if you must register a Muslim marriage under Pakistani law, then I think the core question becomes, so what is the role of the Muslim marriage? Or the marriage between two Muslims, or a Muslim man and a Kitabiya or whatever. Yeah? So, in a sense, what is the precise relationship of law and religion here? And I think that's where the dishonesty is, that we know, as a matter of fact, that even if you do not register your marriage, a marriage that is contracted between a Muslim man and a Muslim woman orally is legally valid in the eyes of Islamic law, in the eyes of God as well. So can the Pakistani state then stand there and say, yeah, we will not recognize this? Yeah? So that's only marriage. But you have the same predicament also when it comes to divorce. So a divorce in whatever form, shall be notified, yeah? But what if you don't do it? What is then the position of the woman? What is the place of the children? What are the obligations of the husband? Is he even an ex-husband? Yeah? All these complications arise. And so my criticism appears to have been that the act tries to please sort of two constituencies, but in the process has created a lot of legal uncertainty, actually.
Yeah.
And it's actually been good news for lawyers because they can make money out
Yeah.
of this. But it's not good for people
Yeah.
if they get involved in
Yeah.
these complications.
Yeah.
That's where I see the
Yeah.
problem.
Professor Minsky, I just want to ask you this question that isn't your perspective presuming that there is this tussle between Sharia and state law? Can't we imagine that in some way Sharia and state law actually complement with each other? And the example I just want to give you is about second marriage. So if a person completely disregards the requirements or in the provided in the MFLO and enters into second marriage. Now
There's another
yes.
shall, no?
Yeah, another
shall
shall.
seek the consent
Exactly.
of
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what the courts have held is that marriage is valid, right?
Yes.
But the consequences, right, of punishment or whatever, and there have been some recent judgments would follow. Now we have also seen that happening. So initially, when hudud laws were promulgated, lots of women were prosecuted by their ex husbands for adultery because कौन नोटिस देता है भाई? इमरान खान ने शादी की, ठीक है, तलाक दी, कोई नोटिस नहीं दिया, ठीक है, मौजूदा पीरियड में, फॉरगेट अबाउट 60s में, ठीक है, जबकि इतने लोग लिटरेट भी नहीं थे. सो इजंट इट आपके क्रिटिसिज्म में देयर इज दिस प्रिजम्पशन that Sharia and state law are in constant tussle with each other. They are kind of वो सोतने हैं एक दूसरे की ना, ठीक है, कि अल्टीमेट उनमें टसल ही है, वो कभी भी कॉम्प्लीमेंट नहीं कर सकते. They will always clash.
Well, they won't always clash, but devious people can make them clash. This is the problem. People will exploit the existing legal insecurity.
Yeah.
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 And so when it suits them, they will file a case or put up certain arguments.
Yeah.
But in other cases, it's like the two just coexist.
True.
So it depends not on the coexistence of these two laws, but on the people who are using this law.
Yeah.
And if you have some badmash log,
Yeah.
then you have trouble.
Yes. Yes.
No?
Yes.
That's where you get this haramiyat. Right?
All right. So
and that's where we get those cases.
Okay.
Where you then realize, oh my God, this cannot be right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That a man who throws his wife out without notice.
Yeah.
And pushes her on the pavement, basically.
Yeah.
Then turns around later when she teams up with another man.
Yeah.
And accuses her of zina. I mean, that could not possibly have been.
Yeah.
A correct, approach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is the right foray for me to then talk about your own scholarship, which is very sociological. You just you don't simply focus on the text, although your own training, as a PhD scholar, was to read these Sanskrit texts. So how is it that you're trained in a very, very textual analysis and then you bring in sociological perspective? You just mentioned that, hey, this is not simply the text, but the way text is basically exploited by people.
But I was never just a textual person.
Right.
Yeah? I mean, I was also a social scientist from the beginning.
Yeah.
Because I studied geography, I studied social geography. So I'm at heart a social scientist.
I see.
Even before I came to the law.
Yeah.
And my analysis of the law has always been focused on social analysis and not just focused on state power and state centricity and all that.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm quite anti-state in all sorts of ways because of my own biography. Yeah. Don't trust state authority if there is so much, given that there is so much evidence of abuse of powers.
Yeah.
I simply find it difficult to believe, if you like, any written statement as a sort of genuine
Yeah.
attempt to run a proper legal order. A lot of law is manipulation
Yeah.
and deliberate moving all sorts of chess entities, to gain advantage and all that.
Yeah.
I don't trust the law,
Yeah.
basically. I've always been questioning, the formal law as a potential abuse of power, which explains why, for example, I've produced this book in Pakistan about public interest litigation.
I see.
In South Asia.
I see.
Which a lot of people don't know, but that particular book, that particular period of South Asian legal history also is very important.
Yeah.
Late 80s and early 90s. No? But we are talking about the MFLO here.
Yes.
So in this case, there is, of course, a sort of, there is a battle between the state and religion, or between legal authority and religious authority. No? If a modern state like Pakistan, if Pakistan can be described as a modern state.
It's by the way, Riyasat-e-Madina. Yeah?
Yeah.
It's a welfare state like Sweden at the same time, and then Taliban's version also. So it's a very kind of, tradition modern kind of. Yes.
Yeah. So it's not your purely Austinian sort of...
Not at all. At least
Exactly.
ask Imran Khan, right?
Yeah. So what I meant to say was that if you have such a state that isn't your France or something, but you are aware that you have a majority of Muslim citizens and you want to operate a personal law structure, which it seems all states in South Asia and in many parts of the world want to do, then you have to make compromises. Then you have to find the right balance between empowering the state, but also not forgetting the impact of the different religious orders that are involved. No?
This is true. I mean, let me remind our viewers that when you're talking about MFLO, it intrinsically, the whole debate boils down to basically clash of authorities, religious authority and state authority. So here, Professor Minsky, I would ask you to, maybe we should try to unpack state, right? When we say state, what do we actually mean? In Pakistani context, when we say state, what do we actually mean? The state. What is the state?
Well, the state is supposed to be a democratic order based on, the results of elections.
Yeah.
That brings out a certain group of people who are then empowered to govern.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But at the same time, of course, these people in Pakistan are mostly also Muslims.
Yeah.
And that's, again, where the issue is.
Yeah.
So, are you Muslim first, or are you a secular politician first, or simply a state functionary first? Yeah? And, I always go back to Professor Chiba's model here, which I've shown in that book on comparative law in a global context, where Chiba taught us very clearly that law everywhere in the world is connected to values, always. Yeah? And you can give these values different names, but they are sets of, ideas, ethics, religion, principles, what have you, that are a different kind of law, in my view, than the rules coming out of a state.
Yeah.
That are a different kind of law than the rules coming out of a society, like custom and all that. That are a different type of law than the rules of international law or the principles of human rights. And so whatever shape they take in a particular jurisdiction, they are an entity in their own right. That has and claims a voice. And this is what you see in South Asian legal orders everywhere. That this so-called religious element is really, really important in the personal laws. I don't actually accept that personal laws are only about religion.
Yeah.
Yeah? They are about ethics and values and all
Yeah.
that. But of course, within those ethics and values,
Yeah.
religious beliefs, religious principles,
Yeah.
the basics are very important.
Yeah.
And for Muslims, it's very clear, Allah is the supreme.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the state of necessity
Yeah.
from that perspective
Yeah.
has to be subordinate. But the modern state claims to be supreme.
Yeah.
And so there's a clash.
Okay, Professor Minsky, I have my own, I think, comments about this. I think this whole framing of this issue as, state versus religion and clash of authorities is deeply problematic. But let's not talk about this. Let's talk about flying of kites, right?
Well, can we first talk about this being deeply problematic?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is deeply problematic.
Yeah.
But neither you nor I can do anything about it. It's a fact.
Look,
It exists.
true, it exists. But the way we frame it, I mean, let's take the example of UK. So Queen is commander of faith, and your House of Lords has, spiritual, and also commoners, right? So I mean, this has to be like, I know historically, definitely there is this intrinsic kind of conflict or tussle between political authority and religious authority, because both want to be controlling, right? Let me put it in that term. Clergy try to control mind, and king try to control bodies.
Yeah, but this is in Europe, and in Europe we seem to have decided somehow that the state is superior. Some people have gone as far as saying God is dead. But from a legal perspective, the state is the supreme authority, not God. Yeah, and so in different forms you have secular legal structures, whether it's France or Italy or Spain or England. They all take slightly different shapes and have different combinations. But the pattern here is always the same. The state legal order is the supreme legal order in the ranking of hierarchies. Yeah, we are not theocracies or whatever. Yeah,
true.
Whereas in a place like Pakistan, you have a lot of people who will argue that I'm a Muslim first, and then I'm a Pakistani. And this entity that I live in, the state of Pakistan, is first of all an Islamic republic.
Yeah.
And then it is, a state, like, any other, not any other state in the world, but a state that is based on legal principles rather than belief and religious authority. Yeah. But of course, there are many Muslims also who see this in different ways.
Yeah.
There is no one way of being Muslim and of seeing this particular issue.
Yeah.
And I think that the predicament of a country like Pakistan, also because it has decided to become an Islamic republic, is exactly that. How does one actually solve that predicament that one has created?
Yeah. Okay, now we are operating at a very abstract level, right? So here is political authority and here is religious authority, and then look, the civilized West has resolved this problem, but uncivilized...
No. The civilized West has resolved nothing.
Yeah.
It has simply made a particular decision, and based on that decision, certain facts have resulted, certain authority structures have been created, and so it's clear, you can't argue that God is supreme, Parliament is supreme, or the President, or the King, or whatever, whatever is the system. So nothing has been resolved.
Okay, true. I mean, let's concretize it to MFLO. So we see in MFLO, right, that state tries to kind of make an intervention, right?
Yeah.
Intervention.
I would agree with that.
In divine law, right? In inverted commas, divine, because at the end of the day, it's fiqh. Fiqh is understanding, right? So fiqh is divine inspired law rather than divine law.
Correct.
Yeah?
Yes.
So what state has tried to do, and I think this is the right time I should read that passage, which I was reading to you. So this is when during Zia's period, they want to repeal MFLO, right? and they sent a report to to Ministry of Law. And here the Ministry of Law comments on the report, which is actually given to repeal MFLO. Right? It says the Family Laws Ordinance 1961 is utterly un-Islamic. It is against Holy Quran and Sunnah. It has dared to amend the Quranic law to the extent of irtidad, that is, apostasy, and its existence is a slur, a blot, a bad blot on the glorious name of Islam and our Islamic country. Such a legislation or even its name need not be protected. Let us clean the blot altogether by its total repeal.
Yeah.
So basically endorsing your point, right? So what?
No,
Yes.
no. My point is not that it should be taken off. Yeah. My point is.
Yes.
My point is that yes, one can play with, if you like,
Yeah.
or use this kind of ordinance, but then one should probably be a little more honest about what one is doing.
Yeah.
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 Because it's not an either or here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, even if you have, and we see this in the West, this is my Angrezi Sharia. Yeah. So you are a Muslim living in the West.
Yeah.
But you know, you are still following
Yes.
God's law.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though this is not legal.
Yeah.
This is not official.
Yes.
Angrezi Sharia, of course, is not official law. This is unofficial law.
Okay. Okay.
You see?
Interesting.
Self-constructed.
Interesting.
On your own terms.
Interesting.
You know,
Interesting.
the anthropologist Roger Ballard
Yeah.
said this very clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah? And he became a Muslim, imagine.
I see.
He died a Muslim. He was buried
Wow.
as a Muslim last year.
Wow.
Yeah? But he found in his research here in Britain among Asians that Asians were reconstructing their life world on their own terms.
Yeah.
And for Muslims, this meant they want to live
Yeah.
as Muslims.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you have to necessarily go against the English law or the state law.
Yeah.
But, you know, in your own mind, in your own practice, God is the superior authority.
Yeah.
And so as much as you can, you try, ijtihad, you try, to follow his will and his wish, and his template and his ideals, and live as a good Muslim. Now, in Pakistan, where the state is an Islamic state, there are two options, therefore. Either you play the game that you now play, or you say openly, yes, we are truly and really an Islamic state, and then you are indeed a theocracy. But that is what Pakistan does not want to be, because it's politically incorrect in today's world to be a theocracy. And so you don't want this bad label of a theocracy. You also don't want the bad label of a completely secular.
Man, what a dilemma, right?
Yeah, exactly. You cannot. Pakistan cannot be just a.
It cannot be secular.
A French secular state.
Then we'll say कि भाई ये फिर ये border बनाए क्यों था ना?
Okay, so let's talk about kite flying now.
Yes,
Chalo.
kite flying.
पतंगबाजी.
पतंगबाजी. अच्छा बाजी जितने भी होती है ना, जैसे कबूतरबाजी, ठीक है, ये कोई पॉजिटिव नहीं लिया जाता ना, ठीक है, पाकिस्तान में जितने.
All these bazis are something bad, no?
Exactly.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about patangbazi normally. I do it just now. Yeah. I mean, if I talk about kite flying, to me this is a balancing act. That tries to find the best possible solution, which has to be, therefore, a compromise of some kind. Yeah? And so what I've done, I've talked about it already, but people may not have got that. Let me explain this. So my kite has 4 corners. Yeah? And so I'm saying, right, in corner 1 at the top, there are all these ethics and values and religions and whatever. Yeah. In corner 2, on this side, there are the values of and the rules of society. So there's social norms and all that. But there's also business.
Let's call it
There's
custom.
also economics. There's
Yeah.
custom.
Yes.
All sorts of custom.
Yeah.
On this side,
Yeah.
corner 3 is
Yeah.
the state
Yeah.
in all sorts of forms. Yeah. And then at the bottom you have corner 4, which is international law,
Yeah.
international
Yeah.
regulations,
Yeah.
human rights
Yeah.
principles, and
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so these 4 entities, legal entities, because they are law-related entities.
Yeah.
State law is never the only law.
Yeah.
They're law-related entities. They're in constant competition.
Yeah.
And all of us, every moment of our lives,
Yeah.
we have to balance this
Yeah.
and find the right balance
Yes.
between these 4 expectations.
Yeah.
And I can trace this very often when I read a judgment, for example, or a scenario.
Yeah.
From which angle does a particular person argue? Yeah?
Yeah.
Is this a corner 1 argument, or a
Ah.
corner 2 argument,
Whoa.
or a corner 3
Interesting.
argument?
Interesting.
Yeah? So can you see the ambition to have an ordinance
Yes.
for Pakistan?
Yes.
Is clearly a corner 3 argument.
Yeah.
The state wants to make a claim,
Interesting.
but it doesn't tell us.
Interesting.
It makes this claim because it wants to co-opt
Yeah.
corner 1
Yes.
and
Yes.
use it for
Yeah.
the purpose of...
Interesting.
Yeah?
Great.
And
Great.
what also maybe I should explain, there is a second level of this kite, because every corner of the kite, 1, 2, 3, 4, is again not just an endpoint, but is again a kite. Every corner is itself
Wow. Okay.
composed of these 4 elements
Interesting.
within.
Interesting.
So you have within religion,
Yeah.
state elements,
Yeah.
custom
Yeah.
elements,
Yeah.
international law
Interesting.
elements.
Interesting.
And
Wow.
can you see? And these are not the same as they would be in the other corner.
Very interesting.
So Professor Woodman at some point at a lecture in SOAS pointed this out, that if you have customary law, which would normally be in corner 2 of society, it is not the same customary law when you have a state recognizing customary law, or international law recognizing customary law, or the Quran and the Islamic system taking care of Sunnah, for example, as custom. They are slightly different. So it's a very complicated matter, and when any particular case arises, any particular case scenario arises, my strategy of analysis has always been to ask, okay, so who are the stakeholders here, and what are their agenda, and what actually is at stake here?
Very interesting. Very interesting.
And then you sometimes realize this is completely fake. Yeah, somebody is just arguing for some political advantage or point or something. This is not in order to find an appropriate solution. It may be all sorts of agendas.
Interesting.
And that's of course the law. I mean, many cases are simply tamasha. Drama, for the sake of it, almost.
True. Achha, I just want to ask you a $1 million question. $1 million question is कि kite तो आपने बना दी, उसके 4 corners भी हैं. Balance कैसे होता है? How the balance comes, right?
The balance changes every second.
But what changes it? How do I, as a student, now you have given us a very powerful tool of analysis, right? We have now all the ingredients of this recipe. And that is very powerful tool to analyze, right? How do we actually understand that whatever status quo is, whatever current balance is, say for instance in Pakistani context, now the balance is that the army is calling the shots, right? Imran Khan's government is just a Benami government, right?
Well, that's what lots of people say.
Yeah.
And that's already, a particular position. Which in this kite analysis you can interpret in a particular way. Yeah. Because at the same time it's also clear that there are still elections. And people are still, exercising the right to vote. And Imran Khan is more than just a puppet. But there is balance.
Sort of.
to be found.
I mean,
yeah?
there is at least no chaos, right? We just see that there is some sort of stability, right? It's not like Afghanistan where there is actual war going on, and you see that,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay.
or maybe in Somalia or other so-called failed states, right? So where there is tussle going on, and somehow some balance would be reached, right?
Okay, but let's get back to the MFLO,
Yeah.
because this current, whatever, Imran Khan and the military and all that.
Yeah.
The MFLO is clearly, since the 60s, since the late 50s,
Yeah.
a device to shape the identity of Pakistan as an Islamic nation. Yeah?
But modern Islamic nation, right? Modern is really important here.
Modern.
Yeah.
Modern in the sense that you combine your commitment to religion
Yeah.
with democratic structures.
Which is basically Western, like, you know, either it's Westminster or is it American presidential model, which Ayub Khan and basic democracies and all that stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but I doubt all the time still whether it has to be necessarily seen as a Western model. Yeah.
But don't forget that Peer who had actually proposed that Ayub Khan should declare himself a king, right? So if Ayub Khan should have declared himself a king, right? Of course, then it could have been, you know, Westminster democracy with Queen heading, right? But still, I mean, जो परवेज थे उसके पीछे जो intellectual backbone जो provide की जा रही थी MFLO के ऊपर, if we want to look into जो टसल हो रही थी, मुफ्ती तकी उस्मानी है, मुफ्ती रफ़ी उस्मानी है, मुफ्ती शफ़ी उस्मानी है एक तरफ, ठीक है, सारे के सारे उलमा हैं, और जो दूसरी तरफ जो स्टेट के हैं, इस्लामिक रिसर्च इंस्टीट्यूट के हैं, ठीक है, वो प्रोफेसर जो हैं शिकागो वाले हमारे प्रोफेसर, ठीक है, और जो बाकी लोग हैं, सो वो कह रहे हैं कि जी नहीं, ये तो इस्लाम मॉडर्न है, राइट? यू सी, हम दिखाएंगे कि कैसे पाकिस्तान एक मॉडर्न सक्सेसफुल वेलफेयर स्टेट जो है वो बन सकती है. एंड इफ यू वांट टू सी द एग्जांपल, लुक एट MFLO, राइट? पूरी दुनिया को हमने दिखाया है कि जी कैसे.
So it's a symbol.
Yeah.
It's a symbol of modernity.
Yes.
But it's a symbol of modernity also because it is an act.
Yeah.
Ordinance, act,
yeah,
whatever. Yeah. So it's in the guise of, a corner 3 entity, state law.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what it actually also does, because it is the Muslim family laws ordinance, it is also an Islamic entity at the same time.
True.
So it also tries to direct itself to that corner 1 and stay in line with corner 1. But the predicament is it cannot ultimately stay in line with corner 1 if it ends up saying to corner 3, you're the boss, because corner 1 should be the boss for a proper Islamic system.
Yeah.
But what is a proper Islamic
No,
system?
but the point is that why I say that it is modern Islamic, because it's the state telling us that what Islam is, right? So Islam has multiple interpretations. You have multiple schools. So it's the state telling us that, look, we know that there are multiple interpretations. And you know what? Which interpretation would prevail? We will tell you, you know. And why?
Is that the role of the state?
Of course. I mean,
that's the claim that the Pakistani state makes.
Look, let's unpack state, right? So state is basically a conglomerate of institutions. So what is state? It's the legislature, it's the executive, it's the judiciary. In political science terms, वो जो उसके 4-5 ingredients हैं, ठीक है? तो जब हम state की बात करते हैं, तो basically let's say executive. हमें state इस्तेमाल नहीं करें ना, ठीक है? क्योंकि जुडिशरी नहीं बता रही कि MFLO को होना क्या है, उसकी इंटरप्रिटेशन जुडिशरी ने करनी है ना, ठीक है? जो परमलगेट कर रहा है वो तो जनरल है ना, अयूब खान, ठीक है? तो स्टेट इज बेसिकली, व्हाट इज पाकिस्तानी स्टेट? सो पाकिस्तानी स्टेट इज बेसिकली डिपेंड करता है कि कौन एक्चुअली इज एक्सरसाइजिंग एग्जीक्यूटिव अथॉरिटी, ठीक है? तो किसी वक्त में पाकिस्तान में स्टेट जो है वो मिलिट्री बन जाती है, किसी वक्त जो जुडिशरी बन जाती है, जब हमारे वो चीफ जस्टिस साहब जो हैं वो डैम बना रहे होते हैं, दूसरे चीफ जस्टिस साहब जो है वो शराब की बोतलें पकड़ने पर जो है वो आपकी पब्लिक इंटरेस्ट लिटिगेशन को जो है वो टर्न्स ऑन इट्स हेड, राइट? सो आपने तो बहुत ही सेलिब्रेट किया ना कि वो जो मसीह वाला केस था, ठीक है, यू जस्ट केम बैंगिंग जैसे लुक पाकिस्तान जुडिशरी इज डूइंग दिस, और आपके चीफ जस्टिस साहब ने फिर उसके साथ क्या कर दिया, तो उस वक्त स्टेट क्या बन गई, उस वक्त तो वो जो विच एवर इज कॉलिंग द शॉट, सो जुडिशरी एक्चुअली बिकेम द स्टेट.
Okay, so relating that now to the MFLO,
Yeah.
The state then ends up telling people what is religion?
Yeah. At least the enforceable part of religion, state enforceable part of religion.
State enforceable part?
Yeah.
I don't know. Because if it says a marriage shall be registered.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So the state enforceable part is if you don't do it, you may be punished.
No. Yeah, punished in the sense that your marriage, we as state will not recognize your marriage. It may still be valid between you and community level.
Yeah, but the problem is that the Pakistani state does recognize these marriages.
It does.
Yeah, you see.
देखें, that's why my understanding is that MFLO को आप ना देखिए कि वो complementary है to Sharia, ठीक है?
Okay.
ठीक है, शरिया कहती है कि जी मैरिज के ये इंग्रेडिएंट्स हैं कि जी कंसेंट हो उसमें, ठीक है, उसमें विटनेसेस हों, जो कुछ मर्जी है ना वो सारी, ठीक है, perfectly fine अगर आपने कर ली.
Yeah, but that's all just the legal dimension.
Exactly.
Okay.
हाँ.
And fear God is the chief witness.
Of course, God chief. वो तो.
Yeah, of course, you see, but one doesn't say that in Pakistan because it's taken for granted. But it needs to be put into the picture. That's also there.
देखिए, अल्लाह अमेरिका और आर्मी तो पाकिस्तान में हर जगह है ही है ना. You don't need to say that. आपको पता है 3 चीजें जो पाकिस्तान में है ना.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. But for for people who as outsiders analyze the MFLO, they might miss that. Yeah?
Of course.
And then you get confusions.
Yeah. Of course. And I must say that Western scholars, with great respect, your wonderful work, most of your colleagues don't get MFLO properly, ठीक है?
Well.
Yeah. क्योंकि उर्दू वाला एक जो पोर्शन है ना, जो उलमा की आपका क्रिटिक का क्या है, आपके पास जो है वो जो मैरिज लॉ कमीशन रिपोर्ट एक्स-रेड, ठीक है, उसका फिर दूसरा वर्जन, दैट इज the one and the only source of information for non-native scholars, if I may say so. ठीक है, तो भाई उसके अलावा फतवा चल रहे थे न्यूज़पेपर में सब कुछ. अच्छा, अयूब खान ने फिर वो किया उसको जैसे मना किया कि इट वाज पनिशेबल कि आप उसमें न्यूज़पेपर में उसको क्रिटिसाइज करेंगे, ठीक है, और दूसरा उसको जैसे जुडिशियल रिव्यू से उसने उसको वो बचाया, ठीक है. कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में MFLO कैन नॉट बी जुडिशियली रिव्यूड. अच्छा, जब पार्लियामेंट बनती है ना 1962 में, सबसे पहला जो एजेंडा आइटम होता है ना, वो MFLO को रिपील करने में होता है. और जब फातिमा जिन्ना का इलेक्शन होता है अयूब खान के अगेंस्ट में, तो उनके जो एजेंडे में ये है कि MFLO को रिपील करना भी है. You see?
But then it gets involved in all sorts of things.
Yes. ठीक है, दिमाग की दही सही बनती है. अच्छा, लेकिन इंटरेस्टिंग है ना, देखे ना कि वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट MFLO, लेकिन ज़रा डिबेट्स देखिए ना कि हम स्टेट की बात कर रहे हैं, रिलीजन की, उसकी अथॉरिटी की बात कर रहे हैं, ठीक है, और फिर आपका काइट्स मॉडल भी इसमें फिट इन हो रहा है. तो मैं अगर एज अ स्टूडेंट सुन रहा हूँ तो आई मीन, are we professors obsessed with our own theories and we just view everything from that perspective, or do we have any objectivity in our research also?
That's a very good question. I think my experience has been that every professor, every author wants to push their own perspective, or wants to use their own terminology even sometimes, yeah? And so we all talk past each other to some extent.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but it's a big problem. Yeah. And there is just no attempt to work together. Yeah. I found that really difficult in all these decades that I've been working on this, and I still don't see any resolution here. Yeah.
नहीं, कुछ ना कुछ तो पॉजिटिव चेंज होनी चाहिए ना, I mean, at least in 21st
Yeah,
century.
but then we hear as a result of this Alaraka case in
Yes.
2000,
Yeah.
yeah, there are now 3 lines of cases.
Yeah.
Yeah? One line of cases says, yes, notice is, essential, so shall means must. One line of cases says, no, shall means inshallah.
Yeah.
Yeah? And the third line of cases says, well, it depends on the facts and circumstances of the case.
I love shall mean inshallah, right? That is my favorite.
Well, I mean,
अच्छा,
but that's what, some people have written, and
ठीक है.
rightly so.
ठीक है.
Yeah?
Right.
And what is this? I mean, a lawyer's paradise. Yeah? And Pakistan is a lawyer's paradise.
Of course,
let's face it.
of course. जब वो तमीज़ुद्दीन वगैरह के केस थे, they just had Pratt or whatever,
Oh my
people made
God.
lots of money out of
Oh
that.
my God!
No?
Yes, I know.
Huh.
I mean, it's in some ways it's a sad history
Huh.
because why are there these endless, petty, competitive debates? Yeah,
Huh.
instead of moving on and finding appropriate solutions. Yeah, but I mean that's not for me to discuss or to critique, but this is what has happened.
Yeah.
I mean, they took so long to even agree on a constitution.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, it's sad. Sorry.
No, but जब constitution बना भी लिया, it was copy pasting of 1935 Act, right?
Not only.
Yeah.
No, not only.
No?
Not only. No,
Okay,
no, there's
I see.
more to it.
Oh, there's more to it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But, to simply fuss around for so many years.
Yeah, interesting. अच्छा, आपके काफ़ी सारे स्टूडेंट भी इधर मुझे नज़र आ रहे हैं. आमिर मुनीर साहब हैं, ठीक है, और भी काफ़ी सारे लोग हैं. सो लुक, आई मीन, ये हमने मेला सा लगा दिया हुआ है पाकिस्तान में, ठीक है. सो थैंक यू वेरी मच एवरीवन हु इज़ जॉइनिंग अस. सो प्लीज़ राइट डाउन योर क्वेश्चंस इफ़ यू हैव एनी इसमें कमेंट के सेक्शन में. तो हम थोड़ा सा ब्रेक लेना चाहेंगे. शुडंट वी टेक अ ब्रेक? ठीक है, हम थोड़ा सा ब्रेक लेंगे और उसके बाद में हम कोई चाय वगैरह हम पी लें, आप लोग भी कुछ चाय वाय पी लें, ठीक है. और मीनवाइल अगर जो है वो आपके कुछ क्वेश्चंस हैं तो आप हमें टाइप कर दें, या फिर मेरा अगर आपके पास व्हाट्सएप नंबर है तो मुझे आप व्हाट्सएप कर दें, और हम अपने दूसरे सेशन में प्रोफेसर मिन्स्की से जो है वो आपके सवालात पूछेंगे. आई थिंक मैंने प्रोफेसर मिन्स्की को काफ़ी जो है वो तंग कर दिया अपने सवालों से. अब ये आपकी बारी है, आपको भी हम मौका देंगे कि आप प्रोफेसर मिन्स्की को तंग करें. सो आई एम एंडिंग दिस एंड वील जॉइन यू इन 10-15 minutes later. ओके, बाय.